You also did 500 days without caffeine?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so first of all, why? And second of all, what did you learn from that? Because I personally love coffee, but I don't know if it's because I love the effect of coffee or because it's just a habit. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll have a coffee.
Well, I did the alcohol-free thing 6 or 7 years ago now, and I think that this is low and no. We were talking about it last night. Low and no alcohol is so trendy now. So many people. It's been a big lever in your life, a really big change in your life. It's been a big change in tons and tons and tons of people's lives, and you can talk about people's alcohol use, and they will usually be okay-ish. If you come for their fucking coffee use, you are mincemeat. If you start to point a finger at someone's caffeine consumption, it's like you've insulted their mum.
Yeah.
Because people are very, very connected to it. And they also don't see, most people can see that alcohol is probably bad for them in some way or another. Coffee and caffeine doesn't necessarily have that. So the reason that I did 500 days was I began to notice that I didn't have energy levels. I had variable levels of caffeine concentration in my blood. And you even see this with people when you talk to them. Someone won't say, I'm tired. They'll say, I need a coffee. So they've replaced understanding their body's signals of energy level with, this is just an indication of caffeine level. All it is just I need more or I need less caffeine. And you paper over the cracks of your own inefficiency of recovery by using coffee to buttress your shit sleep. So if you're like, maybe it shouldn't be the case that I'm tired at 11 a.m. and I need to have a coffee. Like, you shouldn't be. You should be absolutely fine. But people get into this dangerous cycle of using caffeine to wake up, which restricts their sleep, which means they're more tired, which means they need more caffeine, and they're desensitizing as they go through, especially in America, dude. These energy drinks out there, a Celsius like or a Bang or a Ghost, 300, 350 MIGs. Insane. That's like what? 4 cups of coffee, 5 cups of coffee? It's wild.
Yeah.
So I stopped for 500 days without any caffeine, apart from being stealth caffeined if someone didn't get me the right, Diet Coke with no caffeine, and it was like a trace amount of caffeine in there and stuff. So 500 days without caffeine. What I learned was I didn't need it. I didn't get withdrawals from it. Some people will get headaches.
What about the first week though?
Fine.
Okay.
Fine. Absolutely fine. I actually was. I would have a coffee mid-morning, and I would have a Nocco or some sort of energy drink later in the day. So I was talking, in the region of 200 to 300 probably MIGs-ish throughout the day that I would consume, maybe up to 350. Moderate user, I guess, of caffeine pretty much every single day. No issues when I stopped. No headaches. But if you want to do that, just taper it down. Just replace each coffee with a decaf over time, then replace each decaf with a nothing to do with coffee. Switching to Element first thing in the morning made a big difference because that was optimizing my adrenals, my hydration, my appetite as well, and brain function was all sorted through hydration rather than through caffeine. I think a lot of the problems that people fix with caffeine is actually hydration, and it's not just water that you need for hydration, right? You need the U hydration, you need the salts in order to be able to absorb that into your body. Like literally, what the thing that makes the synapses be able to link up with each other is the salts that you've got that allow that hydration to work. So that's mitigating your brain function heavily. Other things that I learned were that my sleep improved drastically. My energy levels became more stable throughout the day. They weren't peaking and troughing quite so much. You do lose one thing that someone brought up the other day that I didn't even think about. You do get a nice high, like the physiological sense or the psychological sense, of being on caffeine is very enjoyable. And some people may use caffeine almost as a crutch to give them some happiness throughout the day. That's a difficult one to replace, but you can do that with the right nootropics. Go caffeine free. Qualia Mind that I use has got a caffeine free version, which means that you can get a little bit of a lift without having caffeine in. And then after 500 days, bringing it back in and reintroducing caffeine, my sensitivity is so
about that first
piss
coffee
weak. Yeah, I had like half an espresso, so like 40 mgs or whatever of caffeine. I'm so sensitive. But now it means that when I actually take caffeine, if I use it before a training session, I have an unbelievable training session as opposed to just an adequate training session.
That's why I don't understand, like, so many guys that go to the gym, they're loading up on so much pre-workout before every session to the point where it's not even doing anything anymore. And they feel like they just, to take that pre-workout, it's just for them to feel normal.
What's your pre-workout stack?
Let's have a coffee.
You don't use any nitric oxide, beta-alanine?
No, because I know all of that is not necessary as long as I eat properly and have a good night's sleep. It's the sleep that will, without a doubt, dictate how good that session is. If I've had a good sleep, I will even notice, like, I have a crazy pump. It feels like my skin is like ripping apart. I'm stronger. It's ridiculous. So instead of thinking about, what can I have to try and just temporarily elevate my energy levels throughout the session, I'm like, okay, so how do I actually focus and fix my sleep? And usually I find that when I do have a pre-workout, and when I've had it in the past, particularly later on in the day, it just completely kills my sleep. I can't fall asleep when I've had a pre-workout after 12 o'clock.
Yeah. It's, dude, I mean, caffeine is it's sort of lurking in everybody's lives, and we've got these problems around sleep, and everybody's aware of how important sleep is to, Dr. Matthew Walker, that podcast on Rogan. I think it's added, I think that podcast that he did with Rogan, I think it's number 1109, which shows how many times I've gone back and listened to it, probably saved, like, hundreds of thousands of years of combined human life. All of the extension, the millions of people that listened to it, and all of the people that made the changes, a couple of years each. Crazy.
Like, supplements, life hacks, and tools are you using to optimize your health and performance?
Cool. Okay.
I'm sure there's a huge list, but what are the things which really...
The longest levers. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, a lot of this comes from Huberman, and I think that he's been such an important introduction to the world of health and advice, because it's so evidence-based what he does. Not everybody agrees with everything that he says. For me, a morning walk is a non-negotiable. As soon as I'm up, I'm making a beeline for daylight, or as close to daylight or sunlight as I can get. And it's almost like frantic. I'm like, up, no caffeine for the first 90 minutes, salt in water. So I use Element, which is just tastes fantastic. Your adrenal system is what's active for the first 90 minutes of the day. Your adenosine system that caffeine acts on isn't. So having a morning coffee is literally pointless. It
destroys you in the afternoon.
Correct. Yeah. You're just stacking caffeine, down-regulating your sensitivity whilst not actually helping you feel more awake. So Element, salt in water, or, you could use Himalayan pink salt or whatever, but it doesn't taste that good. That walk, get back. Breath work, use State app, which is $1.50 a month, and it's really great. It programs in progressive overload. Really, really fantastic. 4 pathways, super simple. Then meditate. If I'm doing guided, I'm using Waking Up by Sam Harris. If I'm doing unguided, I use Insight Timer, which is just like a meditation timer app. Then I'll read for about 10 to 15 minutes. And this is usually the same unless I'm like traveling or I've got different stuff. One really great thing for people that want to get into reading but find books a little bit heavy going, which I was not a reader and still broadly don't consider myself to be one. If you've got a Kindle, or if you have a birthday coming up and you think, I really want to make a commitment to this, just ask someone to get you a Kindle for your birthday, and Send to Kindle for Google Chrome is an extension that will turn any web page into an optimized Kindle document and send it straight to the device. So let's say that you're looking at an article that someone sends you or that you see online, and you're like, oh, this is cool and interesting, but trying to read something, for me, trying to read an article on my laptop, I'm just not in reading mode. I'm in flitting around the internet and emails and work mode. Press this button and it appears on the Kindle, and then the next morning I'll wake up and have maybe 3 things I saw yesterday, and I'll spend 15 minutes and I'll set a timer. So all of this is timed, right? The apps either do it, or when I'm reading, I'll start a countdown timer for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You can get through a good amount, you can maybe 1 or 2 articles in that time. I think, oh wow, and that just sets my day up. So that's a long lever.
So is that from the moment you wake up, are you spending, is that like 1 hour, or is that
just under an hour?
Just under an hour before even looking at your phone?
Correct. No,
emails?
Correct. So I have a second and a third phone. I have 3 phones. So I have one that's got all of my contact stuff on, that's got my emails, my WhatsApp, my texts. I have another one which is social media. What is it that George calls it? One is One is kale and the other's cocaine. He's got a kale phone and a cocaine phone.
That's so true.
Yeah. So taking social media off your main phone is great. And the other reason that it's great is if you put it on, and you can do this super easy, right? Everybody is going to upgrade their phone at some point. Just don't sell the last phone. It's only worth 200 quid. It doesn't matter. Just keep that. That's now your cocaine phone. Take social media off the main one. And then it means that you check it when it's Wi-Fi only, because you've only got one SIM card. So you can't take it out of the house with you. So when you're out and about, maybe you spend time watching YouTube or in texting or WhatsApping, but you're not falling down the TikTok, Instagram rabbit hole. And then I have a third phone, which is the personal development phone. So that's just meditation time, a breath work, like other bits and pieces that I would use. Don't look at your phone. I mean, sleep with your phone outside of your bedroom, massive life hack. Probably the longest lever that you can have. You're never going to roll over in the middle of the night and check it. You're not going to watch it before you go to bed. You're not going to use it first thing in the morning. Just put it in the kitchen. Take the charger right now and put it in the kitchen or somewhere else.
That's one thing that I'm not doing and I need to do. And I think it's the reason why my sleep is so
weird. It would change everything. It would change absolutely everything.
Yeah. You've got the Whoop as well.
Correct. Yeah. So I use Whoop. It's the best wearable that I've found. I think what they're doing is really, really effective. I'd be very interested to see when they bring out the 5.0, what they can change in terms of hardware, if they can improve even more some of the accuracy, but it's great. Sleep, massive lever for me. I never prioritized it previously. 7 to 8 hours ish in bed, which usually nets out. And this is the main thing that I learned from Whoop is the amount of time that you spend asleep is not the amount of time that you've been in bed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what your sleep efficiency is at. Mine's usually in the like mid to high 80s.
It always seems to say that I'm awake for like an hour or so.
Yeah.
Throughout the night.
Me too. But you do have micro awakenings, right? But yeah, that's the main thing. Oh, I got 7 hours last night. It's like, no, you were in bed for 7 hours. You got 6:15. Like, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
So that's the main like red pill I took from that. Other things, hydration, a little bit of intermittent fasting, remembering that now my goal is mental performance rather than physical performance. So the things that are maybe optimal for your mind aren't necessarily what's optimal for lifting things. So I've had to make a bit of a sacrifice with regards to how I train and like macros and calories. But it means that when I sit down on a podcast, I'm firing on all cylinders, which is fine. Because remember what I said, like, what's the highest point of contribution? What's the single ordinating principle through which everything else gets squeezed? Does this make me better as a podcaster?
Yeah.
Does this make me better as a podcaster? And for me, I work really well when I'm fasted. Not too much, but right now is totally perfect. Like mid-morning to around about 2 p.m., a little bit of caffeine, a little bit of nootropics, and I feel great.
Mm-hmm.
So that usually takes me up until the rest of my day would include a bit of writing on the morning, emails, bike desk, huge life hack.
You showed me that yesterday.
I'm going to get you, you're going to have one and you're going to put it in that corner and everyone's going to realize that it's a game changer.
It sounds ridiculous, but you showed me last night and it actually makes quite a lot of sense.
Yeah. So it's like a recumbent cycling desk. So anyone, for the people in either the US or the UK, if you can imagine going to a David Lloyd's or a Lifetime Fitness or something, and it's one of those bikes where your legs aren't below the seat, they're out in front of you. So you almost sort of sit. It's one of the ones where the handles would be by the sides and there's a little backrest. And you have a massive desk that is attached to the bike, goes up and down, forward and back, tilts. The seat angle as well can be totally locked in. And this thing is 350 quid. It's called an ExoWork bike desk. It's the 2000i that I've got. And I did so much research to make sure that what I got was the right one. And it was so good that I bought one of my good friends it for his wedding, as his wedding gift toward the back end of last year.
They should make you a sponsored athlete for that.
I honestly should have. I should reach out to them and get them to partner up, but I'm happy to just talk about it because I think it's great. Getting Zone 2 cardio in is something that no one really cared about. 10 years ago, who the fuck was talking about Zone 2, really, right? Except for probably like endurance races.
What's the heart rate for Zone 2?
So the easiest way to do it is just, can I hold a conversation with a little bit of breath in between? But for me, I aim to go from 120 to about 135, 140-ish.
Yeah, it's not too strenuous, but it's...
Not at all. And it means that you can tick over on emails. For me, when I pass 130, I'm like, okay, I can't quite like hold my thoughts as much.
Like,
yeah, exactly. Or just nothing, right?
Yeah.
Nothing comes out. and I can just sit and do emails. And I showed you the graph last night. I'm accumulating about 180 minutes, 3 hours of zone 2 a week. And it's while I'm doing emails or while I'm like on a call or something. And
when you add that up, that definitely helps to keep you leaner.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, each session's about 60 minutes at that pace is around about 500 to 600 calories, which is great. You know, across a week, what's that? Half a pound of weight loss? Like 1,500, it's like what, 3,500 for a pound of weight loss? Yeah, so it's like half, you know, that's an additional deficit, which is going to give you more calories to play with, benefits for HRV, benefits for resting heart rate. Zone 2 is something that I'm really getting into, but the only reason I'm getting into it is because I've made it super easy. Zone 2 sucks cock. It's like, it's slower than a run, faster than a walk. It's just so difficult to get done.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of the long levers.
I would do that on a treadmill. So I would walk on a treadmill for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, heart rate, probably 125, 130 beats per minute.
It's got to be a big incline if you're walking.
Yeah, 11 to 12. So that's what I would do. But I've noticed when doing the walking on the treadmill that you can't really do a whole lot. Like you can't do anything on a laptop.
Use your phone.
You can. I will try and organize stuff on my phone, or maybe just watch something, watch something educational.
Yeah.
But in
Prep
terms
for a guest or whatever, mate.
Yeah, but doing actual work on a laptop, it seems to be
bike desk.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.